Ireland, there had been about 300 years of war and strife between the northern Irish that were Protestants and the southern were Catholics, and the Catholics were more dominant, so some people left Ireland for that reason. Okay. Jason Wilson's great-grandparents were born in Ireland, in the northern part. They were Ulster Scots, and so he had two sides to the family. One was the Wilson side, one was the Stitt side, and his great-grandparents both lived in the Ulster area, but didn't know each other there. They came directly to Canada first, and they came in about 1830. We know that one definitely was 1830, the other was around that same time. And they came by ship, and at that time, Canada really wanted to have immigrants, and they advertised in Ireland that if people would come, they would give them 200 acres. Some places they also gave them a cow, and they sometimes gave them seed potatoes, but they really wanted immigrants to come and work on the land in different parts of Canada. Many of the family members came to America in different ways. It was easy to go from Canada to America in those days, so a lot of them went to America for college. Some became lawyers, some became shopkeepers. They ended up in very different parts of the country. They had the education tradition, but the family was also very religious. They were Protestants from Northern Ireland, and it was very important that they always went to church, that the day before, the Saturday before the church, all the children would polish all the shoes. There was the religious going to church, and their activities was really important to the family.
Belfast was founded by Scots-Irish in the spring of 1770. The 32 original proprietors bought 15,000 acres of land. They were living in the Londonderry, Salem, New Hampshire area, and they had been in that area since about 1720, meaning that they were amongst some of the first Scots-Irish to come to this country. They were known for being practical weavers. They brought with them their hand looms, and they also first introduced the potato to New England. So they both brought all these skills with them when they came up to what it was to become Belfast, Maine. Legend has it that once the settlers got here and they started establishing themselves, that the decision to name the town was decided by a flip of a coin. One of the gentlemen wanted to call it Belfast after where he had come from in Ireland. Another gentleman wanted to call it Londonderry after the town that they were just coming from. And supposedly they flipped that coin and Belfast won out. Part of the Belfast Museum collection is the original drawing of Chadwick's plan drawn up in the late 1700s that was used to divide the property amongst the 32 original proprietors. Everybody got a little piece of the shorefront that was very important to have access to the water. They also set up in this original plan what they call the town ways, which are still established and under the control of the city of Belfast. It is public rights of way to the water. So even if you didn't own any land right on the waterfront, you still had access to the water, and that's something that we closely maintain to this day, that right to get to the water. You can see here, Belfast Harbor leads into the Passagassawake River, which is an old Indian word for place where sturgeon are speared by light of torch. So having the Passagassawake River, but also the smaller streams that feed into it, like the Goose River, the Westcott Stream, the Little River, those were very important to the first settlers because, in the days before electricity or even steam power, they needed that water power to run sawmills, grist mills, other small manufacturers of its day. The first industries would have been, mostly they would have been busy clearing the trees. This was original forest, cutting trees, getting the wood, and then of course you needed a way to move these products. So then shipbuilding, the building of wharves, the building of warehouses, was completed along the shorefront. Belfast during the 19th century was known for its shipbuilding. We had 4 or 5 different builders, the biggest being the Columbia Perkins Carter Company, and overall we built over 400 vessels just in Belfast alone. Early 20th century, we had a sardine packing plant here, and then we added to the sardine industries. The Penobscot frozen food started with meats and then morphed into baked squash, flavored mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, and then of course we had 2 chicken processing plants in Belfast, Maplewood Company and also the Penobscot Poultry Company. Well, the potatoes are still going strong, and on where once we had the railroad, we now have the Front Street Shipyard, which is sort of bringing Belfast back to its roots. We have several really old businesses, or businesses that were started back in the early 19th century, believe it or not. Matthews Brothers was established in 1854. They're still in business, making doors and windows. In fact, they are, the oldest window manufacturer in the United States is right here in Belfast. And Colburn Shoe Store, which was established in 1832, is considered to be the oldest shoe store in America. One of the ways that Belfast does celebrate its Scots-Irish roots is with the Celtic Festival. It's a festival of music, arts, dance, storytelling. It takes place in July, combines, all the British Isles, England, Wales, Scotland, all different groups come together and participate in, I think it's a 3-day festival right on our big city park in downtown. The Celtic Festival grew out of a long tradition in Belfast. We first celebrated our poultry industry with a big broiler festival, sometimes 5-day festival, celebrating, the chicken industries that were here in Belfast, starting from the mid-20th century up until the late 1980s. That broiler festival brought tens of thousands of people to town. Big parade, big chicken barbecue, lots of rides, musical activities. When the broiler companies, closed, that festival then morphed into the Bay Festival with lots of rides and musical entertainment. And when that festival sort of fizzled out, somebody had the bright idea, well, why don't we celebrate our heritage? And the Celtic Festival was born out of that and continues to grow and get stronger every year. We do have a long tradition of music, art, poetry, various forms of entertainment in town. I do think that the Scots-Irish were rather a gregarious bunch who liked a good storytelling, activities and, music playing here as well. Something that is actually carried on that was very popular in the 19th century and even earlier is contradancing. There are a lot of fiddle groups, that come into Belfast. I think it's at least once a month they run these dances. So I think that's one of the longest lasting traditions that is carried on here. Belfast, Maine, right from the get-go, and I'd say from the early 1800s, became the market town for other farming communities, in this area. Being a market town meant that the farmers, the woodsmen, brought their goods into Belfast to be traded with the local merchants, to be shipped out. So that's what helped, grow our shipbuilding and our shipping, industries along the waterfront. Those farmers and woodsmen also, led to the prosperity of our local merchants, who then in turn built the beautiful buildings that we still see in downtown. Getting the community, the outer communities, into town was very important. So road building was a big piece of the early settlements. When you think of the Scots-Irish, we do have to keep in mind that in 2018, celebrations are going to happen both here in the United States and overseas It is the 300th anniversary of Scots-Irish, also known as the Ulster Scots, coming to the United States.